Hello, everybody. Today, I would like to present my direct experience with the so-called unknown. I do not want to call this as God or any such thing because there is so much known about God in various cultures and religions. This is unknown to the normal human mind, but becomes known when the normal mind is arrested by some unknown force. That's why I call this as an unknown. The reason why I'm presenting this is because there are very few presentation of the unknown in public. I don't know why. Maybe some folks think that if they present this in public, they may not get more experiences in future. But I don't have any such fear. By presenting this, I do not claim to be anything. You must very clearly note this. I was a normal human being, a family man. Before the experience, I am still one. I intend to be one in future as well. Some background about me. I was born in India in 1945 in a southern state called Tamil Nadu, and in a very poor family. At that time, in 1950s, India was not prosperous, got its independence just at that time, and was undergoing a lot of economic turmoil. I saw a lot of suffering everywhere around me. I studied my bachelor's degree in engineering from Tamil Nadu and did my master's and PhD in computer science in one of the famous IITs in India. I worked in one of the IITs as an assistant professor and came to United States of America in 1982 and worked as a visiting assistant professor in one of the universities. And I also worked as a research person in various industry organizations in United States. So I have somewhat some engineering, scientific mind. I have not read Bible or Bhagavad Gita, the Indian text, religious text, or Quran. But I grew up in India, so I might have some bias about the Hindu way of understanding the unknown. But I haven't read many of the books before my experiences. I was doing uh, my master's in Bombay, and I used to read some books to find out what is God and why the God is not removing the sufferings of good human beings. So this started when I was a very young boy in my village, continued to bug me even when I grew up. So I had a very strong, intense desire to understand the so-called God. I read about God in a few books, but not much. At the time of my first direct experience of the unknown, I was married and my child was on the way. and I was in an apartment. What I used to do is that I will sit in a dark room with a candle-like light before me, quietly, and yeah, I used to ask within myself, if there is really any God, that God should come and tell me about itself, because whatever I read about God is not giving me a clear picture why this God is not uh, solving human problems. So it was a very intense question. That's all my meditation is about. I didn't chant any mantra, or I didn't worship any particular form of God. This continued for several days. Nothing happened. But one day, very unexpectedly, something around me started rotating very, very fast. Something around myself as I am in my head. And it was really, really, really fast. And immediately there was a rush of uh, beautiful golden light uh, through the top of my head, and went through all of my body in a cleaning motion. And I really felt extreme, extreme joy at that time. And I saw my own body in front of me, but that body is just filled with that golden light. There were no eyes or leg or hand or head. It's just an outline of my body, and everywhere else it was all pitch dark. When that body was in front of me, I didn't experience that extreme joy. But when it was with me, merged with me, I felt that extreme joy. And so immediately after that, um, I felt that golden light everywhere, not only in my body, everywhere around myself. And at that time, I didn't have any feeling of my body or any such thing. And it did happen very quickly, but I should tell you that before it started happening, as soon as that fast rotation of something inside my brain, some strong force held my mind, arrested my mind, made it non-functional. I should tell this very clearly, because this will be happening in all my experiences later. And when I saw that golden sea of light around me, I also saw some dark leaf-like stuff on top of my head, and it was shivering. It was a little bit of moving around, and there was a female voice, just voice. There was no human form. That voice said, "That's your mind, and a small part of is left." And that was the end of it. This joy remained with me for about a week or so, and it was really, really joyful. That was my first direct experience of the unknown. As I said, I call this as an unknown because it is not known to the human mind. And I never sought this experience again, and that was not in my blood. I never did that. It never happened to me as well. And later, much later, almost like 20, 30 years later, I saw this golden light in Christian tradition. I saw that in Jesus Christ picture when he was pointing to his own heart. There was gold, that golden light. It is same, like golden light. And also in Hindu tradition, this golden light appears many places. But at that time of my first experience, I didn't know much about it. Even now, I don't have a complete picture of what is this golden light means. At the end of the last videos, I will present a kind of a coherent view of all my experiences. We will talk about this golden light again. After this experience, I came to United States and I totally forgot about this. And many years later, almost like 10, 15 years later, when I was sitting in my sofa in my house, again this suddenly this extraordinary force arrested my mind, made it totally non-functional, and I saw this. There was darkness everywhere. I am there, but not with my body. I didn't have any feeling of my body. I'm just there. And there was something flowing from me, and that that thing that flowed from me said in a female voice, "I am Walk. I am your daughter." And a few seconds later, there was another such thing separating from me. And again, there was no human form for this. It just said, "I am Iksh." Um, I didn't know much about Vok or Iksh at that time. All that I know was this thing happened to me. Later, I found that there is another name for this walk in Hindu tradition. It's called Saraswati, one of the Hindu goddesses. And also there is mention about this walk in Bible. I was told that there is some verse which reads something like this. In the beginning there was word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Some such thing. I might not have repeated the same way as it is in Bible or in Christian tradition. Actually, I don't know where these words are in Christian tradition, whether it's in Bible or somewhere else. And my third experience is same thing. Suddenly, my mind will be arrested. I will not be repeating this again and again because this is exactly how it happened every time. And quite unexpectedly, all my experiences happen. That's another interesting thing. I was there, and suddenly there was again a strong force which came out of me, and it also took me along with it. And it said, "I am everywhere." And when that one said, "I'm everywhere," I was also everywhere because I was with that one. It was again a female voice. There was no human being. There was no human form, sorry. And that was the end of that experience. Um, but one thing was clear after that experience to me, that though in my normal functioning of my mind, in my consciousness, I don't feel to be everywhere, but I have suddenly, I used to have the feeling that I'm everywhere, and everyone's suffering is my suffering. I want to say that. And also in Hindu tradition, there is a statement which I learned later, which says something like Aham Brahmasmi. Aham means I am, and I will tell you more about this later. And Brahmasmi means everywhere, I was told. And also, I would like to point out one thing. I saw when I was a young boy, I saw this Ten Commandments movie, and I remember Moses on the mountain saying something like, "I am that I am." Uh, that rang the bell much later of this experience. I don't know really whether they're all one and the same. But Moses also found that golden light going and uh, uh, printing some instructions, some statements in golden light. And that also I recollected later after this experience. And my third experience, by the way, that these experiences, except the first one, didn't happen in the order that I am presenting to you now. I don't have the dates. I didn't note them down. So it could be in a different order that happened to me. Um, and except, as I said, except the first one, I didn't seek my experiences. None of my experiences was repeated again. Again, on another day, quite unexpectedly, my mind was arrested, and something came from total darkness, and 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 the thing that came from the darkness separated into two. I was one, and there was some voice in front of me. There was no form again for that, and it said, "I am a being." I don't know whether it said a or the or without any article. I don't recollect. I recollect the word being, and it pointed out to me something like a dark cloud, and said, "Don't wake him up. He will eat me, and I will become a non-being." When that voice said non-being, I suddenly felt the feeling of death in myself. That could be my first experience of death. Again, that voice said, after some time, I'll sprout again. And that was the end of that experience. On another day, again, I was there in darkness, and in front of me, three heads, just a head alone, small heads, together. They were all joined together. It appeared to me when I looked at the darkness. It's important to note that it just appeared when I looked at them intensely, looked at the darkness intensely, and suddenly there was a golden light from my forehead, and it fell on the central head, and it became the head of a beautiful woman, a young woman, and she smiled at me very, very lovingly, and I was totally attracted by that, and I just went and merged with that one, and as soon as I merged, and I felt as if I have five snakes above me. Again, there was total darkness everywhere. I didn't have my bodily experience. I was just there as I am, and there's a feeling of five snakes on top of me. And later, I learned that these five snakes appear in many places, in many gods in Hindu tradition. On another day, I saw a huge triangle in front of me. Again, the same process of arresting my mind, etc., etc. And uh, there are three corners, obviously, on the triangle, huge triangle. On the right hand side, at the bottom corner, there was this red light, and there was a human head in that red light. And on the left corner, there is this golden light again, and there was no form there. And the top corner, um, I saw the white light, and I felt I was there, though I'm seeing all these things as well. Um, and another experience, um, I was again sitting on sofa somewhere in my house. Suddenly, this arresting of my mind happened, and in front of me, I see a huge female sexual organ, and uh, suddenly something comes out of me, a pillar-like stuff, and keeps growing without any stop. And I saw a vein around that pillar-like stuff, and there was blood in it. As soon as I saw that blood, my, what I was witnessing changed. Again, my mind was even more strongly arrested. And I saw a white sea, a glowing white sea in front of me, and the feeling of myself went and merged with it. And as soon as it went and merged with that white sea, uh, I'm gone, but I'm still witnessing the whole incident. And there is this vast the white light, glowing white light around me. Um, and that was the end of that experience. This beautiful glowing white light around me is very similar to the golden light around me in my first experiences. On another day, I suddenly that after arresting of my mind, um, I see darkness everywhere again, and suddenly there is some forest, and and in the ground there is some statue, a small statue, a female statue, buried in the ground, and there is something from my forehead which goes and touches that one. It says that didn't say, but I have the feeling that's me. Um, uh, Later, I learned that there is a name for the um, uh, goddess buried in the ground. It is called in Hindu tradition as Bhuma Devi or Parvati. Please do not associate anything more with these names to my spiritual experience. And the reason why I'm saying these names is so that you can associate or you can do your own research to find more about this. But at the time of my experience, I didn't know that it was Bhuma Devi or Parvati or any such thing. So as soon as something from my forehead went and touched that statue, that experience ended. On another day, I again there was this darkness, and suddenly uh, two strange kind of eyes appeared in front of me. One eye was totally white inside. There was no people in the middle like normal human beings have. And the voice says, that's one of your eyes. And on the left, I see a similar eye, but this time it was all red in color. Um, and it says, this is another one of your eyes. And that's the end of that experience. Um, and on another day, um, I was there again after that my arresting of my mind, and there was also me in the darkness, and there was a figure, very tall one. It's not a human figure with the hands, head, and legs. It was something similar to that. There was only golden outline to that figure, and inside that golden outline, it was all dark. And that golden outline somehow tells me that it is very tall, and it's like body, though I don't have any other detail. And that moves over on myself, which is the dark one, and the move was somewhat like a sexual motion, and immediately that tall one with the golden outline picks up a white pig from my stomach and throws. And as soon as it was thrown, I, being inside the darkness, and go and merge with that white pig. And I also see that white pig is a male one, and it has the golden sexual organ, and that was the end of that experience. I'll tell you more about other experiences in the second part of my video. It is time right now, and I will end this video. Please watch the second one as well.